it's roomy. Hi, this is Everyday Prepper. Welcome to the channel. Now, I'm not a seasoned hiker, backpacker or wild camper just yet. So, what do I know? What I do know is that I'm 6'2" and I do like a bit of space when I sleep. Now, I've got this tent, which is the OEX Phoxx one man version 2, and I got it specifically for wild camping, which is what I wanted to start doing this summer. I got the tent because it looks like it could be nice and discreet, hence the low profile. So I'll go through the pros and cons from my perspective, and it is just my opinion. I'm not a seasoned camper. So it's advertised as a one-man tent that can cater for anyone up to 6'4" tall. Now, I bought the tent because I like the style and the colours, especially the green, that it looks like it should blend in when wild camping. I've seen other reviews saying that the green blends in better than other tents as well. So that comes in a compact bag with a roll top and some clips. It's got 2 curved poles, one larger than the other, one for the head end, one for the foot end, and 18 quite sturdy pointed aluminium pegs which go into the ground with no problem at all. Now, it also has 4 guidelines on the fly attached to the vents at each end. I didn't film myself putting the tent up because it was quite late last night when I did it, but it was quite easy to put up. It took me around 10 minutes. I think in the manual it says it should take about something like 6 or 8 minutes, but I took my time. It was in my back garden. I wasn't in a rush or anything like that. So what I did is I placed a folded tarp underneath the tent to just protect the base from the dirt, because the base on the inner tent is it's adequate, but it's not particularly tough as a ground sheet. It's quite a soft material, so I don't know if that's standard or not for this type of tent, but I just put the tarp down to protect it. So the poles go into the inner tent, and then you put the fly on top. Now, when I opened the tent from new, the fly was already tied to its points on the inner tent, so I know this can be an issue when putting the tent up in the rain, as I've seen on other reviews. But if the fly is left attached, you can actually wiggle the poles in while keeping the outer sheet on top to protect the whole thing from the rain. So that's what I did. I left it all tied, and the same when I packed it away. I don't know whether it was a returned tent that had already been tied on, or whether that's how it comes. So the poles are very, very light. The whole tent, I think it's supposed to weigh about 1.6 kilos. It weighed 1.7 kilos for me on my scales. The tent on its own weighs about 1.2, so you're looking at about half a kilo for the tent pegs and the poles. It has a vent at each end. The head end vent has a Velcro strap to keep it open, and the 4 guy lines are attached to each vent, 2 on each vent. Now, the toggles on the guys are these neat circular aluminium sliders, which they work pretty well. I had to double the knot on each of them though to stop it pulling through, which it did when I was tightening the lines. So it was a simple fix, no problem. The single knot wasn't adequate to stop it pulling through when you put some tension on. Now, the tent poles, they fit nicely at the attachments at the 4 corners. Then there's also some clips to attach and tighten the fly to the base of the poles, which I quite like, on the foot end, and then you've got some stretchy sort of bungee loops to peg the outer sheet at the head end. So I had 2 spare pegs after putting the tent up, which I realised should have gone at the foot end of the inner. It wouldn't have affected how much room I had inside though, but that would account for why I had 2 spare pegs. So the fly has 1 zip to open the side flap that can then be rolled up and held up by the 2 toggles at the top, and the inner has 2 zips on the door, so you can have a smaller opening, or you can make it open all the way along to probably get inside. The inner also has a small door on the other side, allowing you to place some kit or shoes or whatever between the inner and the fly for storage, so a bit of extra storage room. The ventilation during the night was okay, although where I was stretched against the fabric, especially at the foot end, that did restrict the airflow a little bit, so could have done with a bit more airflow and overall room inside. Luckily it rained during the night, so I can tell you that I was kept dry even though the inner tent was touching the fly. So normally I find that when you touch the inner tent on the fly, water comes straight through it, so it must mean that the outer sheet is very good waterproofing. It's 5,000, rated at 5,000, which I don't know whether that's good or not. I haven't got enough experience really, but most other tents I've used before, I'd be soaked just by touching the two together. So that was pretty good. Ideally for me, the door would have a mosquito net section just so it could be opened like a double layer, so that I could open it and have more ventilation if required, but with a mosquito net. I've been used to that on other tents, so you can just keep cool perhaps in the summer months as well. But overall, it was 12th of July. Being in the UK, we're sort of supposedly in the height of our summer. It was a bit of a chill last night, but I was warm enough. I had 2 sleeping bags, one that I got in and one as a cover, and I also used an inflatable sleeping pad on a reflective roll mat. And being in my garden, I wasn't really exposed to the elements either, so I don't know what it's like when it's properly like on a hillside somewhere with the wind at you and the rain, with the wind and the rain at you. The main issue that I have with the tent is the size. When I jumped inside one at Go Outdoors, it felt like it was going to be big enough for me, but I didn't take into account the sleeping pad, sleeping bags, and the roll mat, which all raise you up and give you even less room. So it felt roomy enough. I thought, oh, this would be great, and I purchased it rather than getting the 2-man. So last night, once I got used to the coughing sensation, which was really quite claustrophobic, I was able to get some sleep, but not a lot. It was just really too confined for me. Packing the tent up this morning was quite easy. I left the fly attached as it was before and rolled the tent as best I could, got it back in the bag, and I've kept the pegs and the poles out of the bag to place elsewhere in my backpack, as recommended by other backpackers. That way you can save space and keep the poles away. And pack it all up a lot neater. So overall, it's a really nice looking tent. It's nice colours, easy to put up, feels pretty sturdy for £50. I can't fault it really. It's just way too small for me. If I was made of cardboard and about 2 foot shorter, it would be ideal. So I think in the future I'll be looking at 2-man tents for my wild camping going forward, just to make things easier. I've looked right across the market, even at very high-end 1-man tents, like the Van Gogh ones, up to sort of £200, £300, £400, and all the measurements for inside are just not big enough. This one, I think the inside measurement is 253, and then overall 263. Might be actually 263 inside, then 280 on the outside. But either way, it's just definitely not big enough. Certainly not big enough for a 6'4" person. And I'm only 6'2", and at my age probably shrinking even as well. So it's just not adequate. So I don't know if there's like an official size threshold where a 1-man tent turns into a 2-man tent, but as I say, I don't have a great deal of experience yet. But for me, it would probably not be my tent of choice for wild camping. So I will have a look into the 2-man. Maybe even a 3-man. I have got a 3-man tent. It's a Coleman, which is great. Really roomy. You can sit up inside of it and all that sort of stuff. But I wanted the low profile really to be a bit more discreet in wild camping, because as I've said in previous videos, one of the concerns for me is being found. And of course, the lower the profile tent and more discreet, the better, and the less chance of me being discovered. But anyway, that's my review for the moment. I hope you found that useful. Please add any comments below if you have any experience with this particular tent, or have any recommendations for any tents that might be more suitable for me. But in the meantime, appreciate you watching, and stay prepared.